yes, I wanted to go faster, but I was also wanting to do it on my own terms. So for me, it's been about the personal understanding of who I am and how I work best.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. I've been wanting to get this lady on my podcast for ages, and I'm so excited. She's got an accent a little bit like mine, but just from a slightly different place in the UK. I'm so excited. We have got business mentor for women coaches. She's the author of Now Is Your Chance. Niyc Pidgeon, welcome to the show.
Oh, yes. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you are here. And we were just talking before we recorded about how challenging it is right now about increasing your income, because there's so many other things that are going on in the world that we can't control. But one of the things that you have done is you've helped women scale some like huge numbers. Like we were just talking about some of your clients, and I'm so excited to dive into today. But first of all, you didn't always start off living in Beverly Hills, making a great amount of money, did you, Niyc? So
Definitely
tell us
not.
your story. Where did you start and how did you get to where you are today?
So I started in Newcastle in the northeast of England, and I actually really struggled with money. I feel like one of the reasons that I'm so good at teaching people to make money and teaching money mindset and psychology is because I had to master it for myself first. And it was such a big breakthrough for me to go from growing up wanting to be, first of all, like an accountant, which I can't even imagine anything worse now. And then having my first business in high school where I sold tie-dye socks to the other students, to then wanting to go and be a mechanical and automotive engineer, and having been really academic at school, and my dad telling me like, you just need to do maths and physics and go get a job for 30 grand a year, and that's going to be like your highest excellence, to really starting to listen to myself and figure out what it is I want to do rather than what it is I think I should do, and start to pursue that path, listening to the whispers of my soul. And I think that I feel very grateful to have learned that at an early age, because it did put me on a path that meant I enjoyed the work that I was doing, even if at the start I wasn't getting paid for it. So I was making like $500 a month. And then I would have this big month. I'd be like, yes, I finally cracked it. And then I'd be like, oh no, it's $500 again. And it would be up and down and all over the place with this roller coaster financially that meant very much I was on a roller coaster emotionally as well. So it feels really good to have mastered being able to create income very easily, doing things that I love, and then also be able to get our clients. Like one of them messaged me today and she was like, Niyc, I've doubled my launch and I've gone from making $100,000 in a few weeks to making, even pounds actually, £100,000 in a few weeks to £200,000 in a few weeks. And I'm just like, yes, it's so possible for us all to have that.
Oh, that's incredible. I love it. Testimonial stories of your clients is just is really what keeps you going. Now, I know that everyone is going to be thinking, okay, you came from Newcastle. How did you get to the Beverly Hills? Like that is one thing. Like how, that's a very different place. Newcastle to Beverly Hills is pretty extreme. So how did you get over there? Because I know there's a lot of British people like, oh, you're living the dream. You live in America.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's been for me, it's one foot in front of the other. Like I didn't actually grow up coming to America at all. And I had a boyfriend that I was with for 10 years, and his family always used to come over here. And they were like, Niyc, you'll love America. You'll love it. And I'm like, nah, not really interested. And finally, for my 25th birthday, we came on a trip and we did Vegas for 5 days and we did LA for 10 days. And I just fell in love. At the time, I was a personal trainer and we were actually researching a juice bar. So we kind of came and tested all of the green juices and then decided, right, we're going to take these recipes or these ideas or these brand things back to Newcastle and set up our own business across there. And it was only when him and I broke up, I got out of that relationship. I won Young Entrepreneur of the Year back in Newcastle. And it gave me like the confidence and also like a new lease of life, I guess, to go off on my own adventures. But LA felt like such a big leap, like you said. It was like to go from Newcastle to LA, I felt scared. Honestly, I felt really scared. So my first step was to go from Newcastle to Australia. And I stayed with a friend over there and I set up my business online, and I used my suitcase as a desk, where I was like created my own call center in her spare bedroom to make my first 100 grand in my business. And then actually my assistant and I moved to LA together, and it was like, okay, we can do it now. There's two of us. So we stayed in this big house full of entrepreneurs for the first 3 months. And there was like 7 of us in one house and 7 of us in the house next door. And it sounds amazing. It was a total disaster. It was like really bad, too many personalities. But at the same time, like a really fond memory of an example of just choosing to do it and get it done. And even if you feel scared, like taking that step for yourself.
I love that story of you having your suitcase like in your room. Like that's what people don't see. It's like the funny stuff behind the scenes. Like that's the best part. Is like I remember, when I first started doing some network marketing, I'd be like up at like 2 a.m. because I had people in different countries, and I was like, I'll get up at any time that you need to. Like I was working, I was ready to work, that I would like, get up in the middle of the night, like sneak out into the living room, not to like wake anybody out, and do the calls and then go back to bed and just pretend that it was just like a normal thing that I'd be up at like, 2 a.m. I think a lot of people are intimidated by sales. And you say that you made your first like 100 grand. What was that business in, just for the people who are listening? And how did you get over the fear of selling? I mean, because I think that's one big thing that, women are the best people at selling. We're the best because we love to share. You tell me like, oh my goodness, like, I love that dress. You're like, oh my goodness, it was a discount. I got this off. Like guys are just gonna be like, all right, cheers, dude. Like we will sell the thing that we just bought, but then we get in our head when it's like about a product that we're trying to get money from. How did you get started when you went over to Australia? What was the business that you had? And then how did you get over the fear of selling?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I definitely have seen the attachment between self-worth and money. And one of the things that I teach is actually it's the uncoupling of those two things and the focus on your customer or your client investing in the result that they're committed to creating, which is the thing that they're actually paying for. They're not paying for what you're worth, because you're not worth 10 grand or you're not worth any kind of monetary amount. So I think getting separated from that loop is super important. I actually made that first 100 grand in this business that I still have right now. And I didn't understand how to do it straight away. So I'd left the UK, I'd taken my business location independent. There was this whole wave of entrepreneurs and women online who were like, I can travel the world and do what I love and make 10 grand a month doing it. So I'm like, I want to do that. So I'd taken a course about how to run Facebook ads. And my assistant and I had set up our very first online campaign with the intention of selling like a group coaching program. And it was a total failure. We'd put 6 months of work into this thing. One person signed up and I charged $197. So I was faced with this situation where everyone around me was saying, Nick, you can't do this. You're crazy. You can't be an online coach. You can't be an entrepreneur. You need to give up. You don't know how to do it. Go back to the gym, like get a job, even if it's in New Zealand or Australia, do the thing that you know. So I really had to consider what I would teach other people in that situation. And I really had to apply my positive psychology tools and drown out that negativity and just get laser focused on my goals. So I actually shifted my business model at that early stage. And I went from trying to do this group coaching program to go back to teaching one-on-one. Now at that stage, I'd already been coaching for probably about 3 or 4 years one-on-one. So I knew how to do it. I knew I could get results, but I was charging £40 an hour in Newcastle. I now shifted to, instead of selling single sessions, selling packages and programs instead. And I charged 5 grand for that. I ended up making 35K in 35 days using my suitcase as a desk, then 100K in 100 days from there. I did my first million before I was 30 and then went on to grow and scale. So it's been a practice of like having the confidence to put yourself out there, because it's very nerve-wracking. Like I used to work at a call center when I was in my teenage years, and it was soul destroying. So it was getting over that and just being brave and courageous, but then also remembering that selling is a service. And we've really got a responsibility to sell when we truly believe in the mission and the vision that we have. So for me, I know the tools of positive psychology work. I know that business and online like entrepreneurship is a vehicle for more joy, for more personal power, and to create that success within yourself and also your life. So because I have true certainty in the mission, it means that selling, I feel like I have a responsibility to do it because people really need the tools and they really need the results.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love what you said. You know, the first like 6 months, we have one person that signed up. I just had Nathan Chan on the podcast. He is the CEO of Founder and the Founder magazine. And he said that he worked for 6 months. He launched his magazine and he had 2 sales in the first day, but his was for like $5. So he was like, yes, made $10. And then so often then most people will stop. But I think that's what's so important about any business that you start, whether you're doing network marketing, whether you have a brick and mortar, whether you have, something on Etsy. It's like almost you can't expect anything. You're doing it because you have a desire, you have a love, you have a passion for it. But if you kind of launch something and you're like, oh, you know what, just, only one person bought it, it obviously doesn't work. It's like, no, because we know it works, right? We see other people be successful. And it's just that every successful person has just had more no's and more knockbacks than somebody who's just quit. I love that. Let's dive into one of the things that you said on your Instagram was about negative thought patterns. And I think this is perfect because as soon as, we get a no from somebody, maybe it's a return, maybe it's a refund, you start to go, oh my goodness, you start to question your own beliefs. Have you ever had people that have that maybe the business has kind of gone up and down and then you started to think like, maybe this doesn't work. And how did you get yourself out of that? What was that number one way to release negative thought patterns?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I first started, I actually had that success really quickly, and I'd gone on to launch new programs and new offers and new coaching containers. And it was almost like I'd gone too fast and I hadn't been able to catch up with myself yet. So I had a lot of nervousness around what I was teaching. And I had one student that wanted to quit. And it was because she had things going on in her life and like emotional things that she was experiencing. But I really took it personally. And it really affected my mindset and the way that I was showing up in my business and how confident I was with putting things out on social media. And I see it happen time and time again online. It's either this like fear of judgment or this like comparisonitis. So I think it's really important that we have a personal practice, daily spiritual practice, daily mindset practice. We're focused on our goals and our vision and making sure that we're focused on where we want to go rather than on the things that are going wrong. Because you talk about grit, I talk about being unstoppable. It's that sense of resilience within you where there's no option to quit. There's no option to fail unless you give up on yourself. So I always make the decision. I'm like, I know I'm never going to give up on myself. So there's got to be something that I can do in this moment. So I look at what it is that I'm actually scared of. So if it's something like that, I'm scared of what other people think of me, or I'm scared of judgment or hate on the internet, then I separate out what is the part of this that I cannot control. Like I actually can't control other people's opinions. Like none of us can. So I may as well let that piece go. What is it I can control? I can control the way that I feel. So I'm going to go practice a morning ritual, even if it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm going to do something that Kundalini Yoga is like my go-to practice so that I can feel better more of the time, so that my channel is clear. I can make better decisions and I can go out there into the world with a greater sense of certainty and confidence.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, even if you have like 5 clients, maybe you have 3, right? And 1 drops out, you put so much energy and intention into that one person. Like, why have they dropped out? Like I remember when I don't take it personally anymore. Like if somebody like quits on something, I'm like, all right, no problem. Give me some feedback. How can I be better next time? And here's your refund. But the beginning, oh my goodness. And I would try and convince that person that it was almost like I was convincing myself, right? You're like portraying like what you want, somebody else to feel. But I was like, I was trying to convince them that like they were making the wrong decision. Like, no. And then so much of that energy then goes into that one person that you forget about all of the other people. And that then you start to lose that like why and that drive as to why you got started in the first place. So, I think we've all been there. Anyone successful who has a business, like, and it's easy for you to say now, don't take it personally, like you're going to be fine. But like in the moment, you're like, this is like everything.
Yeah.
So true. You also talk in your Instagram about, what to do when you don't feel like you're where you should be. And I think that's a lot of the thing of comparison. It's like, well, I'm doing what they're doing. I'm copying what they're doing. Why are they having these results and I'm not? Because, I do it too. I'm always looking at other fitness people online and going like, God, I need to make a reel like this, or like, like, why is mine not getting as many like comments or shares? Like, well, what's wrong with me? But then it's like, then I go, no, I got to focus. Like, what makes you unique, Rebecca? How do I stay in my lane? But what tips can you give some of the audience? Because I know that we all compare.
Yeah, and it's so noisy out there now. Like if I look at when I first started in business, the online space was kind of just getting going. And now it's like you're bombarded with stuff. So I actually don't look at other people's stuff. I like really stay focused. I create from my own inspiration and my own life experience. I have like a lot of reflection. I'm like, oh, this happened and it made me think this, and maybe I can teach that. So I'm very much focused on my own vision and mission. I do remember maybe like 3 years ago, though, I was teaching at somebody else's live event. And I remember before I was going on to speak, I was like listening to all of the other speakers and hearing about their business journeys. And I had this feeling of like, oh my goodness, I am so embarrassed because I'm not as far along as them, or I haven't gone as fast as them, or maybe I've prioritized other different things in my life that have meant that I haven't been able to scale as quickly as other people that I'm sitting next to. And it was, number one, it was actually a good thing for me at that time to have that realization, because it helped me get even more committed than ever before. But the way that it helped me to get committed is, yes, I wanted to go faster, but I was also wanting to do it on my own terms. So for me, it's been about the personal understanding of who I am and how I work best through things like positive psychology or human design. So I'm like, right, who is Niyc Pidgeon? What am I actually good at? What am I here for? Like, what is my greatest opportunity on this planet? And it's so different to those people who I was comparing myself to. If I tried to run my business the way that they do, I would be a total disaster. It's just not the way that I work. So I actually streamlined, simplified. And for me, it was about doing a lot less that helped me be able to create more success. But I think it's going to be different for every one of us. So it's really about tuning into what the goal is and what is the most aligned way to get there for you.
It's like being content with where you're at while pursuing where you want to go. It's just kind of like that self-reflection, because, it's always like, oh, well, I wish that I was here, or, why didn't I, I just went up to Everest. I'm the 51st female British woman. I'm like, why wasn't I how is there 51? But like, it's like, well, it's best, great. It's like under 100, right? It's just all how you look at things, because when you look at things differently, the things that you look at will change. What I absolutely love is you talk about like, being a happy coach is like so important for being successful. I mean, I don't even think there's any other way. Like, I wouldn't want to hire a coach that is not happy. And I think that there's a lot of my audience that have side hustles. They want to start a business. Maybe they're in network marketing. Like, how do you make sure that, like, even if you're having a bad day, I can just relate to one of my, one of my clients is like, I'm having a really bad day. It was a really tough weekend. But it's like, how do you just keep showing up regardless, and like not being fake about it, but also like if you've got you got business to do, you got things to get on with. How do you kind of change your state and make sure that you keep showing up and being happy?
I was laughing the other day where I was like writing some posts for social media. And I was like, if somebody saw the way that I do things in my life, they would literally be like, Niyc, is your job like lighting candles or like playing your sound bowls? Because it doesn't seem like I'm sat here running a multi-million-dollar business, because all of my personal practices are so integrated through everything that I do. So if I'm not feeling like doing work, the first thing I'll do is actually shift my state. So it might be for me doing like a shamanic shaking practice where you put on some like of your favorite music and you shake your whole body out. So you're starting that physical movement and you're moving emotion and energy through your body. It might be for me like laying on my infrared mat or going out for a walk. Really simple, basic things that can shift the way that you feel, so that then when you apply yourself to the work, it's not coming from a place of resentment, or it's not coming from a place of like, oh, why do I have to do this? And you're really maintaining your joy through your process. I also love reconnecting with my mission and my vision. And I find that a lot of energy and motivation flows from that space when I remember that actually on the other side of the thing that I don't want to do is millions of people who really need the tools and need my support. And then I love writing a joy list. So I love getting intentional, like on a Sunday night, and saying, what's like 10 things that bring me joy and how can I map them into my week this week? So I've got things to look forward to that really allow my experience to be much richer.
Mm-hmm. I've really started to do that. I was somebody who would just work solidly, like all day long. I don't get distracted. I can just sit there right in front of a computer, do the guides, do whatever I need to do, like work like backwards and forwards. But now I'm really intentional about putting fun into my schedule, because then I actually do the work probably in this, I do the same amount of work but in a short amount of time, because I'm like, all right, this is how much I've got, and I'm going to make sure that I finish that work to add that fun in. Do you have a morning ritual or an evening ritual like that you can share with us of what you do? You're like, yes, I do. Very Absolutely. Much so. I'm very organized. I'm on point. You're like, I do exactly this.
Yes. Well, I used to do like a 7-part ritual in the same order every single day. So I used to wake up and do like gratitudes, meditation, visualization, movement, like read through my goals, like speak them out. Now I approach it from a more flexible perspective, and I have almost like a menu. So let's say I've got 10 tools that I know work, and I do the same couple. As soon as I wake up, I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for this day. I am grateful in every possible way. And that is my morning mantra immediately. I always put on a meditation. So I'll put something on YouTube like Abraham Hicks, and I'll do that just to kind of transition out of sleep and into my day. Usually what I'll then do is go on my infrared mat and use my sound bowls. I'll read something. So I love actually flooding my brain with like positive information. And then I love having a bone broth in the morning at the moment. I find that very healing and very soothing. And then I'll write out my goals. So that would be a normal routine, but it also could be something totally different. It could be me getting up straight away, going to do a workout, because that's what I feel like is going to give me the biggest shift and it feels the best for me. I actually got out of the space of forcing because I got super sick. So I had like toxic mold poisoning. Yeah. And one of the things that really helped me through that was like resting my body a lot more and listening to what I really needed. So instead of me like getting up at the crack of dawn and forcing myself to do my workout straight away, I would wake up with no alarm. And now I do my workout at 3 p.m., which before I would have been like, oh, I can't do that because it's not the right way to do it. But now I'm much more intuitive about what feels best for my body.
Yeah, that's huge. What happened with the toxic mold?
My goodness, like what a saga. It took me 2 years to even figure out that that was what it was. I was feeling so fatigued and had so much brain fog that they thought it was adrenal fatigue. Then they thought it was like low testosterone. That it was like all of these sequence of events that we were treating the symptom, but not realizing what the cause was. And it was from that house, the entrepreneur's house that I mentioned before, it had black mold. And 25% of the population are sensitive to mold. And it essentially causes all of these symptoms and makes you feel terrible. And I finally figured out that that's what it was, because I went for a brain scan and they gave me a ton of like practical steps to get over the PTSD, anxiety, depression, ADHD that they found on the brain scan. And none of the things that they'd given me worked. So they were like, this is like a red flag essentially, and there's something else that's going on. So I want to test you for mold. And the mold was actually causing all of those symptoms. And when we removed the mold, which has taken me a year to remove it through ozone blood therapy and through various different like supplement protocols, all of the other symptoms went away. And now I feel stronger and better than ever before.
Wow. So that mold like became in you.
Mm-hmm. It's been a journey. It like goes into your cells and
they can pick that. Then how were they able to pick that up?
So they did a couple of tests. So they do a blood test for something called transforming growth factor beta 1, and that sees the level of inflammation that's in your body, and it's applied to cancer, Lyme disease, and mold. So a normal range is kind of up to 2,000. Mine was 8,000. So immediately they were like, okay, yeah, you've got mold poisoning. Then they did a urine test to see what type of mold it was. And I actually had 6 different types of mold in my body. So yeah, wow. It was a lot.
So were you already moved out of that house, or was that did you find out when you were in the house?
I was only there for 3 months. Then I left and moved into another home. And I remember I put a post on Facebook last year, and one of my friends that lived in the house with me was like, oh my goodness, you know that you've got that mold poisoning from the house. And when you left, the landlord moved us all into hotels to get the black mold out of the house. So it's actually super common. And Dave Asprey's done a documentary on it called Moldy Movie. And it showcases just how prevalent it is. And a lot of people that are struggling with fatigue or different symptoms don't realize they've actually got mold.
Oh my goodness, that is wild. I'm so glad that you're feeling so much better, especially when you've been treating like things that didn't even need to be treated. It's like, I'm taking medication, doesn't even make any sense.
Exactly.
So what is it that you want? Because you obviously work hard, you have a great quality of life, you have clients, you still have aspirations, I'm sure, to do more because you have another couple of books coming out. But what is it that you want in your life? Like, what are you working towards? What does that look like? Because on the outside, you're like, great, she's got everything running. You're making really great income, got some phenomenal books. I mean, impacting people's lives. But like, how do you set yourself a new goal?
Well, 2 big things that I'm working on at the minute. The next book, which is actually a positive psychology informed guide for suicide prevention. That feels like a great and very important use of my curiosity and my life experience to be able to help people to feel better more of the time. And I really want to learn to fly. So that's one of my like personal things. Like I love cars, I love going fast, I love seeing Earth from above. And it's one of the things that I had on my vision board from 10 years ago that I haven't done. So it's very random, but it also feels very expansive for me to be able to create the impact, but also have like the fun and that thing where I get to learn and I get to practice and I get to grow.
I love that. Well, if you need any recommendations of what aeroplanes to fly, let me know. Because I have my commercial pilot's license.
Stop. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So make sure that before you go flying, I'm going to make sure that you go in a nice diamond aircraft and not a Cessna 52. Because yeah. So I'll make sure that you get the right aircraft. I think that's really important. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that sometimes the clients I'm working with, and a lot of times when they have kids, they're on this like cycle. It's just like a routine where there's nothing like big that's coming up. Like that's why Everest for me was like, you know, I felt so focused on something because it was something so big. And now that's gone. It's like, great, what's my next big thing? What am I launching next? Or what am I doing next? It doesn't mean to say that those, you know, you guys listening at home, you don't have to like launch a new podcast or a book or everything, but it could be like, at least book something in your calendar that you are looking forward to, that it's a little bit outside your comfort zone. It's a country that you've always wanted to visit, but maybe you're just a bit scared. I mean, how important do you think, as we just close out today, purpose is? Like having that, I want to fly a plane, and actually executing it, and I'm going to launch a new book. Like they're 2 huge things, but that keeps you excited to wake up every day. I think if you don't have those things, you know, otherwise I mean, I'm talking to a lot of parents right now, and it's just like, I'm like, I don't want a child because this sounds terrible.
100%. So like in positive psychology, we think about it as like stretching happiness. So memories and reflecting and looking back on times, like you look back on Everest and you're like, whoa, like I feel so proud of that. Or I remember this moment where I was like laughing with a friend and it made me feel like this. That's one way to stretch your happiness. The next way is to be really grounded and present in the moment. So for example, I'm so grateful for our friendship and our connection and this conversation and the opportunity to create an impact, and really grounded into the joy within that. And then the anticipation of happiness, which is the hopefulness or the optimism, or like the looking forward to the potential of the experience in the future. So all three of those things can help us really stack our joy and really experience more within our lives.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And then when you're more joyful, you have things to look forward to, you have more confidence. And like when you have more confidence, you take more action. The more action that you take, the more results that you get. The more results you have, the more confidence that you have. So I love that. It is. It's the go that way. Don't go that way. Go this way. Amazing. Tell everybody, Niyc, where they can find you on social media and get access to all of your stuff.
Favorite place to hang out is on Instagram. So that is at Niyc Pidge. And then I also have the Unstoppable Success podcast, which we'll have to get you on as well. So yeah, favorite place.
Amazing. And where can they get your book?
You can get it from Amazon. You can also get a free copy. We actually have it on nowisyourchancebook.com.
Okay, amazing. We will put all of the details below. Niyc, you're amazing. It sounded great to have another British accent on the podcast, even though we sound very different. And I've got a bit of an American, I think I've got more of an American twang than you have. Thank you so much for being here, Niyc. Guys, welcome, and make sure that you go and give Niyc a lot of love over on her Instagram and go and check out her book as well. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.